A movie about the manhunt for Osama Bin Laden. 10 points to anyone who can actually tally up and count the 9/11 was an inside job comments below. Props to you for having the patience to do that, because there's probably going to be plenty. Zero Dark 30. So Zero Dark 30 is the much talked about Kathryn Bigelow movie starring Jessica Chastain about the hunt for Osama Bin Laden. If you don't know who Bin Laden is, where have you been? And what I like about this movie is it's a really realistic take on the intelligence that leads the hunt for a guy like this. Yeah, I know, intelligence and government really don't go hand in hand too often, but this is that 1% of the time where it does. You always hear about the ground troops and the Marines and all that shit, but you don't hear about the CIA's work, you know, those people at the desks typing away at their computers, finding shit out, chasing the paper trail. Now, when I say the movie stars Jessica Chastain, I mean this is the Jessica Chastain show. For all intents and purposes, she carries this entire movie. There are other characters in the movie, but they kind of flow in and out of the storyline. The movie spans quite a few years. It's the hunt for Bin Laden. I believe it starts in 2003 or 4. And it's cool seeing Chastain be this really rookie CIA chick, and then by the end, she knows how to do this job. Which means her character development is very good and very important. You need to be on board with this. You need to be hunting this guy with her. And you do, and you are, and it's fantastic. However, that means other characters kind of get left in the dust. It's like, oh yeah, you're helping me right now, but you're kind of expendable income. Your part is done. Now you're gone. I loved you in the 2 scenes you were in, though. There is one guy who has more development than everyone else. Maybe it seems that way because he's ultimately in this movie from the beginning. He does most of the torture waterboard scenes, and that's the thing about this movie also. In making a movie about this, you feel like you're gonna piss off somebody somehow. You show the torture waterboard scenes, people are gonna be like, oh no, we want to act like that never happened. That's really offensive. That's terrible. Don't show it. Or if you don't show it, people are gonna be like, well, why are you trying to act like that never happened? Why are you trying to hide the truth? It's another flowered up version of Hollywood. However, I think the movie does its job really well in the sense that it just presents how it was. This is what went into the manhunt for Bin Laden. It's a really fine line to ride that, and I thought Kathryn Bigelow did that really well. And it's really unsettling to watch because it's just so realistic. You're like, I feel like I'm there. But the realism doesn't stop there. The realism does transcend to ultimately everything else in this movie. This movie's like 2.5 hours long. It's 2.5 hours of a really realistic manhunt for public enemy number 1. Which also means there's a lot of scenes in offices where people are just making phone calls and tracking things on computers. Things are happening, but it's not interesting shit. I wasn't gripped by every frame in this movie. I was actually like, well, this is why I don't do office work. I understand it's supposed to be like that, and you're supposed to get frustrated when she's frustrated, and you're supposed to feel like, oh, this is really long and drawn out. Because it was a manhunt that went on for a decade. It's not gonna be over like that. You're so on board with Jessica Chastain's character that when she gets stonewalled, you're like, that sucks. Which is a good thing. It's a great thing in a movie like this. But also, in order to feel that, you need to be on the trail with her, which means you're just along for the ride in the sense of everything. Like, she's sitting at her desk and making phone calls and talking to this person and talking to that person. Long story short, I'm just saying sometimes the movie feels long. All I heard about this movie were a couple things. 1, Jessica Chastain completely kills it in this movie, and she does. And 2, the last 30 minutes of this movie is the most intense thing you're gonna watch in your life ever. Now, the end of this movie is really intense. I really enjoyed it, and I get it. And by the time they're there, you're like, yeah, let's get the guy. It's Osama Bin Laden. You know you gotta get the guy. And if you don't want spoilers from this point on, don't ever watch the news in May 2011. Since you did, let's kind of talk. I won't talk about everything, but you know what house they're rating at the end. I enjoyed it, but I feel like if you watch Zero Dark 30 now, the last 30 minutes, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, it's intense and real, and I watched Black Hawk Down. That was intense and real. However, when the movie was over, I was left with one thought, and that was, I wonder how the movie was gonna end before they got Bin Laden. Production of this movie, they were like, all right, we're gonna make a movie about the hunt for Bin Laden. And then it was like, oh hey, by the way, that one movie that you're gonna make about the hunt for Bin Laden is now the final hunt for Bin Laden. Yeah, we got him. Have fun making that. No pressure. I just wonder how they would have ended it, you know? Was it gonna be just one of those, oh, we're still hunting for him kind of endings? I don't know about you, but for me, that would have left me with a, well, what was the point of watching this kind of feeling. So I'm glad the movie ends the way it does. Long story short, Zero Dark 30 is well acted. Jessica Chastain completely kills it. It's absurdly realistic. You tip your hat to the respect of making the movie. I mean, you look at the movie and you're like, a lot of care went into making this movie. However, the lack of character development for the other characters that are not Jessica Chastain's kind of lacking, and sometimes the movie feels to drag on a bit. The long drawn out scenes make the intensity more intense when the shit hits the fan, but it's all about, is the juice worth the squeeze? That's a question for you, but for my money, I will say this movie is worth buying on Blu-ray. Alright, so have you seen Zero Dark 30, and what did you think of the movie? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.